I can remember when I found the collected short stories of Alice Adams. I just know it had to be between 8 and 12 years ago. I can't remember where either. I know it was somewhere used, and it didn't have a book jacket. I don't like them. It's a thick book. I must have seen the spine first because I was just beginning to realize I preferred short stories to novels, and I saw the words complete short stories and that the author was a woman, and I was sold. While I was rereading her stories these last couple of months, I wrote down some lines I've always loved, and some lines I hadn't noticed before, or had maybe forgotten that I had noticed. And I wrote down little sentences that reminded me of how I felt and thought when I first thought I was going to be a writer for real. When I was rereading and scribbling and walking around this city, thinking about how to write toward influences and process, I imagined I was going to make one thing that fit all the notes and all the stuff. And while I was worrying about what that thing would look like, I thought about Talia Field. I thought about her book, The Bird Lover's Backyard, and about seeing her at the California College of the Arts and hearing her say she doesn't consider herself a poet because she wants to tell stories. And I had a lot of feelings about that, considering her focus on enjambment and remembering that that isn't really the point. So I added her to my notes as I began to reread her book as well. But all the while I was worried about how to fit it all together and make a thing that talked about all the notes. And I guess I made that thing, but it's a thing that is changing, and a thing that has parts that I wrote, and parts that Alice Adams wrote, and parts that Talia Field wrote, and parts that are paraphrased, sometimes well, sometimes badly, from things my mother has said, and my professors have said, and some other words I read a while ago, and remembered while I was collecting all the bits you're going to hear into one document I could save as a PDF and read from this iPad. Yeah. So, there are poems I've written during my time here. Some are written for people I loved, some are written for people I still love, and some people I'm just starting to love, and some people that I saw and never knew. And one is written for someone I never knew, but always thought I should know. So, let's do this. I don't know why I wrote that there. That was amazing. Okay, so Alice Adams was born in the South, and she spent a lot of her adult life in San Francisco. And her stories reflect that. I read them at a time where physical descriptions of the land bored me. And I had never been to either place. The stories that don't take place in Raleigh or San Francisco take place in Mexico, a few in Europe. There are 52 stories, by the way. And so the ones in Europe and Mexico take place during the travels of her characters. Her characters love each other violently, half-heartedly, and sometimes out of a sense of duty. Rarely is love something simple or easy, and when it is never romantic. Even in the case of a relationship that's working well, for example, the two main characters in the story Return Trips, who are on their third marriages and seemingly finally content with a person who will have a line like this one. Sometimes, even now, his hot, heavy body next to mine in bed seems alien, unknown, and I wonder what he is doing there really. At other times, as I have said, I am deeply stirred by an accidental touching of our hands. Her stories circle around the same themes, and the main question, it seemed to me during my first reading, that they were asking is, can romantic love last? There's a certain sense of doom to every coupling, which I found reassuring due to my confusion at that time about relationships and desire and feeling, and my belief there was a one right way to do everything. A way to be a lover, a way to be a writer, a way to be a woman, a way to be a woman in a relationship that was romantic. My mother's first and main romantic advice to me was not to look for the perfect person. She said that person didn't exist, and that I should rather find the person whose faults I could live with. She said, if I love that person, the fact that they place their dirty laundry beside rather than in the hamper would make me laugh. That if I didn't like them, the way they chewed their food would make me want to kill them. So I'm going to pause here and just say that I'm sort of go between the notes I've taken and poems I've written, etc. There was something else I was going to say that I've forgotten now. That's fine then. Okay. Alice Adams' flights. At the same time that he felt touched, he also felt some part of his privacy invaded. My whole past assailing me like light, continuously thrown stones. A note that I made. The place where we began and the spaces between that place and the place we fought to get to and continue to fight to stay in. Another note I made. Write about these things, Fia. Those romantic, come-on sentences one speaks low over the beat. Talia Field. When they take off, it is with a blast of effort and an alarming closeness. Talia Field again. When small boys are the enemy, it's hard to draw the right weapon. Alice Adams, A Public Pool. I felt very anxious, but that was hardly an unfamiliar or unusual sort of emotion. Sometimes shopping for groceries can have the same effect. Later in the story. Of course, I did not begin swimming with any specific idea that I might meet someone, any more than meeting someone is in my mind when I go out to the 9th Avenue Library still. There was always that possibility. The idea of someone is always there in a way, wherever I go. Maybe everywhere everyone goes, even if most people don't think of it that way. And so now we begin with my poems that I wrote. And this one is not titled. With you, it's easy. People and things fade. I can only see so much at once. If I were smaller, or you were smaller, it would be easier to look outside and say, there's a mother with her child on her body in some kind of sack. Look. As things stand, I don't see anything. Besides, maybe a cute puppy for 4 seconds, and then you again, reaching for my hand. And this next one is called Camp Counselor. I want to make this something. Make it your first day of camp, and I am the pedestrian who trots into the street, scoops up the wayward ball, and puts it in your hands. And this is called Hair of the Dog. This morning, on my way to the train, I pulled your hair from my favorite sweater. Last time I wore this, we met for oysters, drank too much vodka. I want to see your hair between pages of books I nap with. Want to tongue your hair around my mouth. And then for the last one, I have to find real fast. I did it. This is not that fast. Okay. There we go. Oh, it's not here. It's fine. I know. I always said I would not go without paper, but now I've done it, and it's so much more challenging. But I lost my printer, so that's what happens. All right. So the last one is called, If We Could Be Friends on Facebook, You Would Know How Much I Love You. You are missed. You are missed, and I am missing you. I realized this morning that I have always lived in the wrong city. I realized this morning that if I sold my bed on Craigslist and bought a used car and started driving this afternoon, I would have the beginning of something. Even if I did those things, I still wouldn't know how to begin to find you. The only new thing I have found to say to you is this. If we could be friends on Facebook, you would know how much I love you. Thank you.